This is not like a modern car. It's honestly like art. They're going up in value right now. You can't go wrong owning a 930 from the 80s or late 70s. Whatever you pay for it today, I believe it's going to be worth way more 5, 10 years from now.
Welcome to Why This Ride by Bespoke Auto Pros, the show where we dive into the stories behind the rides we love. Today we're here with Jason. He is a Woodlands, Texas-based entrepreneur who has graciously brought this 1988 Porsche Turbo 930 to give us a little bit of the background. Before we get into too much about the car, give us a little bit about your background, Jason.
Sure. Grew up in Amarillo, Texas. Been working in computers most of my life. Owned several companies, and have always been a car lover ever since I was a little kid. And happened to be lucky enough to pick up a couple of cars along the way. And like you said, we have this 88 930 here today.
So when you were a kid, what was it that kind of drew you to cars? What got you interested in the cars that you were so fond of as a child?
Growing up, I really loved sports cars. Loved the original Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Mustang GT50s, Z28s. I feel like the era I grew up in, if you had a sports car, that was literally the coolest thing you could have. This particular car literally had a poster of it on my wall when I was growing up.
Awesome. Were you around these types of cars when you were a
Oh
kid?
no, 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 not at all. We had, the typical cars you would have. Mom had a minivan, dad had a pickup. My first car was a Delta 88 with a stripe that was not from the factory. That was literally from the paint fading over time, that I drove to school, that didn't have a radio that worked. It actually had a radio, but it also had a power antenna. And if I left the fuse in, the power antenna would run down the battery while the car was parked. So therefore, a lot of times I did not have a radio.
Very interesting. How did your upbringing and then your future lifestyle kind of lead to where you are today with your love for the cars?
I think it was always a goal. I remember distinctly at a young age, I think we were on vacation and we went into a nice dealership. Could have been a Porsche dealership. I really don't recall. But they had an 86 930 on the floor with the T-tray. Same exact spec as this, brown interior. And I was just enamored with the car. And I remember telling my parents, when I grow up, this is the kind of car I'm going to have. This is the car I want. My parents then told me, well, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer, because those are the only people that they knew that could afford a car like that.
The 80s dream.
The 80s dream. And so it's funny is all through grade school, and I would say even into like middle school, high school, anytime there was that question you got in class, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? I would just de facto put lawyer, and then teachers would be like, well, why do you want to be a lawyer? And I would say, so I could get a 1986 Porsche 911 with a T-tray, red with brown interior. And that always kind of hit the teachers a little odd, like, okay, that's your career choice based on, but that's all I knew, right? Obviously, I didn't grow up to be a lawyer. I didn't grow up to be a doctor, but somehow managed to, acquire one of these vehicles.
Awesome. Yeah, when I told my teachers that I wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor, they always asked me what my second choice was going to be.
That would
Uh,
make sense.
yeah.
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 So why this particular car?
Okay, so like I said, this was kind of the dream car. It's been in the back of my mind literally since I was in elementary school. The kids, my kids are older. They're all off at college. My youngest is now a junior, and I've always been probably more responsible. And so anytime I could have maybe afforded to purchase something like this, I would make some sort of an investment. It would be, let's get another rental house. Let's make this business investment. Let's do this. And so I never really allowed myself to splurge on things like this. And just kind of at this point decided, you know what? I think the kids are okay. I think I'm okay. Let's go ahead and do something like this. And so I picked this car up a year and a half ago on Bring a Trailer, and it only has 25,000 original miles. And I remember when I saw the car, getting the sign off of the boss and making sure that this was okay. And we both agreed it's honestly like art. They're going up in value right now. You can't go wrong owning a 930 from the 80s or late 70s. Whatever you pay for it today, I believe it's going to be worth way more 5, 10 years from now.
Definitely agree. You see them, I look at them constantly online, and you constantly the prices are going through the roof,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, due to mishaps, they're becoming less and less on the road.
That's true, that's true. It's harder to find, ones in good condition that have original paint, numbers matching, haven't been, wrapped around a telephone pole. This particular car was notorious for that. It has the turbo lag. It kicks in, late, and if the driver is not expecting it, there were a lot of accidents. The earlier cars, the '70s versions, had the nickname the Widowmaker, just for that reason, because there were a lot of doctors and lawyers that, didn't know how to handle the car that wrapped them around telephone poles. So,
What is the what is your favorite thing about it?
I would say my favorite thing about the car is how visceral it is. This is not like a modern car. When you get in it, it's small. It's like putting on a pair of pants. When you are in the driver's seat, it is extremely comfortable. You have to shift the gears. You hear the revving of the motor. Every gear shift is intentional. The This particular car likes to be driven at a higher RPM range, so it sounds like you're racing just when you're going to the grocery store. Um, and you can't really get that on today's modern cars, right? They have the ABS and the traction control. The cabins are noise insulated. The seats are like sitting in a recliner. This is not that way. This is very much like an old school race car on the road, and just looking at it, right? It literally looks fast if you're just looking at it sitting still.
It does that. It is a beautiful car. One of my memories from the early '90s, and as I was finishing up high school, was a friend whose dad had a 964, and I can remember him leaving and me asking the kid, "Why does your dad rev the car so high?" He's like, "It's just the way it wants to. It's the way it runs."
Honestly, when I purchased the car, that was the feedback I got from the classic car dealership. They were like, you have to drive this car not aggressively, but you need to run through all the RPMs. If you're trying to shift gears at the lower RPMs repetitively, then the engine never actually gets worked out, right? You're not getting oil to all the places you want to get oil to. On a classic car like this, a lot of people like to let them sit, and they just kind of are art, or they're in a collection. They don't get driven. The problem there is the gaskets dry out. Then you have to have costly repairs. Like, these cars like to be driven. They need to be driven. Even though this is a low mileage uh, option, I still try to drive it every week, every other week, because I don't want it just sitting, because I don't want to have to do unnecessary maintenance on it.
Yeah, and the enjoyment, just the enjoyment of driving.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so the next question is, have you done any fun drives with it that you've had it?
Oh, absolutely. Probably the most memorable was we took the car to the Hill Country Rally outside of Austin, and that is a rally only for air-cooled Porsches. So you can't bring a modern Porsche to the event. It is only for cars from the '60s, '70s, '80s, and then some cars from the '90s that were still air-cooled. And to see hundreds of these cars in various conditions was a blast. And what they do every day is take a drive. So every day we would go on a 50, 100-mile, 200-mile road trip in the car through the hill country of Austin, what is that, southwest part of Texas. And it was just an absolute blast. And to see other cars that had 200, 300,000 miles, might have different colored body panels, and were literally daily drivers, was amazing. I don't see a lot of daily drivers here in the Woodlands like that, but there are literally cars like this that have been on the road for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles, because they are so reliable and they are so enjoyable to drive.
Definitely. If, so after putting some of the miles on it, if your car could speak, what would your car say about you?
That's a great question.
And remember, we're on camera, so let's
Yeah, yeah,
make
what
this
would my
PG.
car say about me? I really don't know. Probably don't tailgate so much. I tend to drive spirited, and I always worry about the paint, because this is original paint and we don't have any kind of PPF on the car. And so obviously anytime we get a new rock chip or something, that's painful. And so, I would probably say, hey, don't follow so closely to other people that you're trying to pass.
Uh, any plans for this car, or is it 100% just going to stay the way it is, all original?
Yeah, with it being all original, we're not really making any changes to it. I did talk about doing like some exhaust changes, basically bolt on things, and then keeping the original parts to put them back. Because I do like to modify cars. That's as much fun to me as driving the cars. And because I do not want to modify this one, I actually picked up a similar 930. So I have an 86 coupe that is also red with brown interior. And that one we are pretty substantially modifying to increase the power, increase the performance, um, because they're just too much fun to not touch.
100%. And now from the factory, these, I mean, in the mid 80s, I mean, the fact that it's so light, but they didn't have a whole lot of horsepower from the factory, right?
You know what? More than you would think, 275 horsepower for the US spec and 300 horsepower for the European spec, which in the 80s, I want to say the Ford Mustang GT, which was another car that I thought was so cool in high school. I think it came with 215, 230 horsepower, right? And this weighs less. So this was an extremely fast vehicle for the time.
Yeah, compared to today's standards, I know you've got another one that's new that has about triple that
Yeah,
horsepower.
yeah, it's not compared to today's cars, right? Like it's easy to get a car today that has 600, 800. New ZR1 just came out, right? 1,000, 1,200 horsepower.
That you can, sip your coffee while doing 180 compared to
Exactly.
this where you're
Exactly. No, no, this is more in the category of it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. Because this car, if you're doing 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, you're paying attention. The steering's a little more lively. You're hearing all the noise from the motor and the road, and you're feeling the bumps, and um, you're definitely paying much more attention and much more engaged when you're driving this.
don't like asking this question, but it's always a fun one to ask. If you were to replace it, what would be a comparable replacement for you?
The next car on the bucket list is a 964 turbo, which is essentially the next version of this car, but still air cooled and has more performance.
Gotcha. So you're just gonna start building out a garage of turbos?
Exactly. Yeah. If I could just have a garage of all the different turbos from all the different years, maybe all of them in the same color, that would be pretty cool. But the 964 is definitely on the radar as far as like the next one we're looking to get, or going the other way at 365.
Oh, even older.
Yes, yes, the 365, even though it doesn't have hardly any power at all, I think they're like under 100 horsepower. They're very lively cars. I met a gentleman at the Hill Country Rally that had one, and he was making it slide in the turns. He was driving that car so hard because they are such high performing vehicles. And for the time, that would have been insane, right? You wouldn't have done that with any other cars from that period.
Definitely. And you would definitely have to know how to slide
Definitely have to
that
know how to
car into a
slide and
corner.
definitely be okay with no, crumple guards or crash protection or airbags. I think he had the sticker on the dash that said, "No airbags, we die like men." So,
Yep, just put on your leather helmet and
that's exactly right.
and
Your
send it.
your old football helmet and then, go for it.
So, obviously, y you chose as you went through your entrepreneur career and businesses to kind of delay buying your dream cars. What advice would you give for the next person who is looking to purchase a special car or something for themselves?
I don't know that there's any kind of universal advice that I could offer because it's kinda situational. I definitely would say prioritize your long-term goals over short-term aspirations, because I think if you do that, then you'll have a lot more opportunities to pursue some of those short-term aspirations. Um, yeah, that's probably what I would say. I will say cars like this, if you do have the means, I do think they're actually a sound investment. If you're gonna take care of the car, you're gonna keep the car up. I do believe cars like this will, at the very least, maintain their value, if not go up in value, and could go up substantially. When I lived in California, I had a neighbor that had a 930, and I think he paid 25 grand for it.
Oh, wow. You're not paying 25 grand
Not paying
today.
25 grand, and this was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, He had a 930. He paid 25 grand for it. It maybe had 50,000 miles, was in great shape. And now that car would be 150 or up if it was in the same condition. So I do believe cars like this, or older cars that are well maintained, that were highly sought after, right? Those cars can be investments if you treat them accordingly.
Right. Fun investments. It's good
And
to have money
absolutely
in the
fun
bank, but when you
investments.
can walk out in your garage and grab the keys and go for a quick ride and still keep a
Absolutely.
good value,
Absolutely.
it gives you a little fun to be able to play with your money that way.
That's right.
So awesome. Well, thank you. And obviously, business partner here at Bespoke Auto Pros. So this does sit in our showroom. So when the customers come by, they can take a look at it and talk about it. And if you're a Porsche enthusiast or just a car enthusiast in general, you can come by the shop and see this sitting in our showroom and have a more in-depth conversation about it. So again, thank you for joining us today. I'm looking
Absolutely.
forward to not only seeing more of your cars, but you have other cars in your family that we will get
We
on, and
do.
we have
We do.
friends. So a little teaser there is we are going to try to get on Jason's wife, Liz.
Yes.
She has a beautiful new Cayenne
Yes.
that y'all have a great European pickup story on.
Yes, we
So,
do.
little teaser for our next episode. So please like and subscribe, follow us on our channels, and we're gonna do one of these probably a week. We will have a form on our website where you can go and tell us your story and be a potential guest on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Why This Ride. Remember, every car has a story, and maybe next time we'll tell yours.